I was holding on to that fear because I didn't want to be left behind until I literally couldn't take it. My body was not working.
It feels like we need to understand ourselves. People could be very disconnected with themselves, right? Because they're not hearing themselves.
When you're in an ocean and you're drowning, your immediate reaction is to flail your hands together and try to keep your head above water. It's very hard for someone who's struggling and in survival mode to go, pause. What are the tools I have around me? Speaking coaches and experts, they miss out a very important part. The root of the fear is not the lack of skill, it is the lack of connection with their inner voice. I'm Rae. I am a speaker and a coach. I guide leaders to own their voice. Using our voice is an integral part to living a very fulfilling life.
Was there a time where you had that fear?
It keeps people small. It doesn't allow for risk-taking.
86% of people felt unheard at work. Why do you think they're afraid of speaking out?
There are usually three key reasons. Number one,
I have this data, right? So the World Economic Forum surveyed that 86% of people felt unheard at work. Why do you think so?
oh my gosh, that's such a worrying piece of data actually. Having gone through situations where I felt unheard and I didn't feel safe to speak up, I feel like the two key factors why people feel unheard is number one, they are not hearing themselves. And if they don't give themselves their own ears, how can they expect people to hear them? And I think the second thing would be, in certain cases, the environment doesn't feel safe, like psychologically safe for them to speak up, and maybe they feel unheard in the process because they're not hearing themselves in the first place. All right. And I believe that if you want something, you have to give it to yourself first. I think change starts with you. So those are the two key factors I feel, and I would love to dive into it. The first one would be the individual. Are they hearing themselves? And the second one would be the environment is the organization creating psychological safety for people to feel heard at work.
Yeah, and you mentioned that people are afraid of speaking up, right?
Yeah.
In the environment, both themselves as well as the space. Why do you think they're afraid of speaking out?
Based on the people that I've spoken to, there are usually three key reasons. Number one, fear of judgment. Number two, fear of being wrong. And the third one is, I think, fear of going out of structure, meaning growing up, perhaps they have followed a certain structure. It comes from within, but the energy in which we're showing up creates the environment too. So if someone is constantly afraid of speaking up, or they speak up but they feel the need to edit themselves and be overly perfect, when they become leaders or when they progress in a company, that is the way they'll lead their team through. So then they end up influencing the environment.
Or are they also emulating or imitating what they see around, therefore shaping who they are and how they show up?
100%, right? I mean, growing up, the leaders that I looked up to, the leaders that were the only examples around me, they always seemed so perfect. So I remember when I was in school, I was president of the Service Learning Club. The members weren't really listening to me, and I was really, really frustrated, but I didn't feel like I could tell anybody. I felt like I needed to have it all together, and I was just crying in the toilet. And after I cried everything out, I said, okay, go out there and look strong. So I had this belief growing up that being a leader means you need to have it all together. Thankfully, things have changed. I feel like with what we see on LinkedIn and leaders sharing stories of vulnerability, that culture has changed, that standard has changed, and now vulnerability and authenticity is being celebrated.
It feels like we need to understand ourselves, a lot. But at the same time, what you're saying is that people could be very disconnected with themselves, right? Because they're not hearing themselves. Why do you think, that's happening?
When you're in an ocean and you're drowning, your immediate reaction is to flail your hands together and try to keep your head above water. It's very hard for someone who's struggling and in survival mode to go, okay, pause. What are the tools I have around me? Look around me. What are the resources? They can't because they're in survival mode. And I feel like a lot of people are in survival mode. With that fear, it keeps people small and it caps creativity. It doesn't allow for risk-taking. And I think that's why people are staying in that fear and they're unable to take a step back, look at the bigger picture and know that even if they do speak up and they screw up, everything is okay and they're able to pick themselves up.
Was there a time where you had that fear yourself?
100%.
Do
100%.
share.
Yeah, I feel like even to this day, there are times that I have that fear when I'm in a new environment, when I'm out of my comfort zone.
Even
And
as an expert,
yeah.
you still have that.
it's so weird. I wouldn't even like consider myself as an expert. When I was in school, I wanted to get really good grades to fit in. When I entered the personal development and entrepreneurial world, I felt like I needed to like buy branded bags and, you know, wear suits and like look older. And I actually spoke in a little bit of that overly professional tone. Like when I'm speaking to people at networking events, I don't allow myself to like laugh or anything. Like I'm not comfortable in my own skin. There was so much expectation and pressure that I put on myself to fit in so that I will be taken seriously. I was hired to host events where the audience had many professional speakers or, you know, people who are much older than me. And on the outside, it looks like I was like really successful. But deep down, I always felt like I was carrying this weight of fake confidence that I needed to like, you know, put on and keep on. And I was like telling myself, no, Rae, you need to stay in this business partnership. There are people who have made like millions of dollars. There are people who have lots of experience. You're going to be able to supercharge your success if you're in this. But every part of my body was saying, leave, leave, leave. And I couldn't take it. And I think deciding to leave and giving myself the opportunity to just be myself fully and bet on myself was what I really needed to own my voice. With many people that I've met, many people who are conventionally successful, ironically, when you bet on yourself and you do what's against the grain, it actually does lead to conventional success at the very end. That's what I realized.
What would you say it was the big fear that you had that kept you going and going until you burn out? And it almost felt like you became fearless at that breaking point and turning point that allowed you to break free and own your voice.
Oh, I wasn't fearless. I was at a point of surrender.
Ah.
I didn't want to be left behind. Because since young, I've always been behind. I work super hard and for some reason I get a C where other people get an A. I always felt like I was 2 steps behind. I was so frustrated. Like, for once, I want to be first. I want to be that young entrepreneur that made it. I want people to think I'm impressive. So I was holding on to that fear because I didn't want to be left behind and I wanted to be at the very top. So it was just a lot of lack of self-worth and, you know, wanting to be validated and also a little bit of not wanting to disappoint and worry my parents. So I think it was all of those things that contributed to that fear. And I was so driven by fear. And that's why I was working myself to the bone until I literally couldn't take it. My body was not working. The alarm would be ringing and I would be in bed. Like I literally cannot wake up. I was so tired. I was so lethargic. I was impatient. I wasn't my best self. I didn't feel good at all. I really hated the way I was showing up. And I think it was really at that point of surrender where I went, you know what? I've tried everything. I worked super hard and I'm still not happy. I'm still tired. Like, what's up? I think I needed to go through that for me to have that realization that betting on myself is what I needed to do. Right. So when I had to leave that business partnership, that was kind of the no choice moment, right? That was the surrender.
But in the process also, you realized that surrender was letting go of the fear. It was also then the bravery for you to part that partnership. You feel like it was so?
It's not letting go of the fear because fear will always be there. I believe it is recognizing the fear, observing it and go like, fear, I see you. I know what you're trying to tell me. Right? How often do we actually talk to our fear? We're always ignoring it or pushing it away. So like sitting down, recognizing the fear, talking to it and be, hey, I know what you're trying to tell me. I know you're scared. I know you want to get ahead. I know that you're doing all of this because you don't feel worthy. I acknowledge that you're feeling this way and I want to see you first. I want to tell you, Rae, that you are enough regardless of what results you get. And I think giving myself the affirmation before I actually see results is the hardest thing. It is believing in yourself, recognizing yourself before you have external validation recognizing you. That is the hardest thing I feel. Like I think that is probably the most important skill we need to have in our lives, right? Because if we always look for external validation, we will never be able to stand our ground and anchor in our truth.
I love the way you approach, I think, helping people to speak up, right? First, I want to understand why are you doing this, right? Like, what got you to realize that, hey, I want to help people speak up, own your voice?
I actually got into this process of helping and coaching people and speaking pretty much by accident. I followed my joy and my excitement. I was just sharing on social media, sharing my story of how I overcome my fear of speaking and like books and podcasts that I read. This was like 7 years ago or 8 years ago. And I had people asking me, hey, Rae, I'm hosting this event and you know it's the launch of my new startup and I love the content that you're creating about speaking, about networking. Do you want to come and speak at my event? Okay, sure. So it came very organically because I put myself on a free social media platform. I created my own stage for myself and people invited me on to their stages. Then things snowballed, right? From that one speaking opportunity, someone in the audience took a video of me, posted on their IG story, and one of their followers saw and reached out to me and asked me if I had any coaching programs. I did not. Just created something for him on the spot.
Wow.
So that started my coaching journey. I think just allowing myself to organically respond and follow the breadcrumbs of my curiosity. When I was doing an internship, a compulsory internship in uni, I kept being paired up with this person for projects. And since I'm paired up with him, no choice, I just talk to him, right? I mean, so he was a couple of years younger than me, so he was just choosing his uni course, and he was very troubled. You know, I think his main challenge was, should I follow what I want to do or what my parents want me to do? And I didn't realize it then, but through the many conversations we had, I was actually coaching him. I wasn't giving him advice, right? I was actually asking him questions, and I didn't realize it back then that was actually coaching. So I feel like I followed my intuition a lot, and it eventually led me to what I do today. And I think the main thing that drives me is I want to see a world where people's unique opinions and stories shine. Because I feel like just having one point of view is going to make a very, very boring world. I love hearing different perspectives. I love it when I travel and I hear different points of view. And I hope to see it more in Asia and in Singapore. And that's why I'm doing it right now, helping people own their voice.
And I can see that you're trying to pull out, I think, that essence from everyone, right? That identity that they have. What would you say is different, I think, the approach that you try to, pull out that essence for people, to share?
Yeah. I mean, actually, I'm curious to hear from you. Like, when you look at speaking coaches out there, what is the most common approach that you see them?
Techniques, right?
Yeah,
it's
techniques,
always
right?
the skills, right? The techniques, the volume of your voice,
Yes,
right?
yes.
To the tone. It's always about that. Yeah,
Yes,
techniques.
yeah, and those are important, and I also cover those in the work that I do. It's just that a lot of these speaking coaches and experts, they miss out a very important part, which is your inner voice. Developing the inner voice is a messy human process. And I think that's why people don't talk about it much, because it's hard to sell that as a thing. Like, it's hard to sell that transformation. But I see the importance of it. Having worked with people in my earlier parts of my coaching career, I was only coaching on skills of speaking. And within the first 2 sessions, I realized, oh wow, like the root of the fear is not the lack of skill. It is the lack of connection with your inner voice. And I knew that if I really want to put work that I believe in out there, I'll need to touch on the inner voice as well and not just focus on the outer voice. So where I come in is I combine the inner voice and the outer voice. I help people connect with their inner voice so that they gain clarity over what they actually want to share and put out on social media or out there in the world or in their companies and in their organizations. I help them manage their thoughts, their negative self-talk, their critical thoughts that they have coming up when they are putting themselves out there. And then I also help them with the outer voice, which is how they present themselves, those things that we will probably already know, the volume, how do you put your hands, how do you step on stage. Is the way that you're showing up an accurate reflection of who you are on the inside? And I think by doing those 2 things, like the inner voice and the outer voice, it creates a more holistic transformation and genuine authenticity.
How does it work for someone who maybe doesn't know that or hasn't really done a lot of that inner work?
A very simple, consistent thing that I would recommend to everybody is to spend 5 to 10 minutes a day, whether it's at a night or in a day, to sit down and just observe your thoughts. Put your phone away, put distractions away, put yourself in a space that is distraction free, and just observe your thoughts. That is the first step. But if you were to create a habit of observing your thoughts, you'll be able to do the same thing, observe your thoughts when you're asked a question, and from a third person's perspective, choose the 3 points you want from your head and share it in an articulate way. But people can't do that because they haven't created the habit, a consistent habit of observing their thoughts. And then you'll see if, when you start doing this, you'll realize that you're able to be in that observer point of view. When you're asked a question, when you're put in this pressurizing situation, even if you have a lot of thoughts swimming around, you're able to very quickly observe those thoughts, pick up the thoughts you actually want to share, and then deliver it. I promise you, do this habit for 30 days and you'll see a huge difference. When you're constantly doing more, predicting more, creating all this structure and trying to be very productive and efficient in order to be certain in anything, certain in the way your audience reacts, certain in the way your content does, certain in the way your business is run, you lose the connection with your voice.
Can you expand a little, right? So apart from being with your thoughts, how do I connect with myself more such that I'm able to show up more of myself?
Speaking up with confidence is such a big thing. So how do you break down the milestones? That's what I'm getting from you, right? So if I were to work with a client that has this question, the first thing that I would do is I would find out in this current season of life, what are some of their goals? And it's usually quite contextual. So whatever their goal is, I would actually then help them peel away the layers and understand what needs to happen to strengthen their inner voice in order for us to build a strong foundation to that goal. So for example, if they want to show up stronger in a professional setting, right? And they want to do the inner work for that, then that would look like, okay, clarifying how does showing up stronger look like? Usually that clarification already helps to break through a lot of limiting beliefs and conditioning already, right? Because we don't want to be working towards something that is not helpful to you or is inauthentic to you. So we clarify the goal. If it's business, right, wanting to build a personal brand, I'll clarify why do they want to build a personal brand? What is the reason? So it's clarifying what is that internal motivator and that drive first for them to show up with more confidence. And when they have the internal factor, then we get curious as to what are the challenges that come up and how do they create better habits and routines that give them that armor, right? And that protect them from the failures and the rejections and the negative stuff that comes. Instead of defaulting to, I'm not good enough, I will never be successful, how can you reframe that thought to something that actually serves you?
I know that self-confidence that kind of comes out when you start to know yourself and when you're put in that position to speak up, be in front of bosses, in a presentation or on stage, you're you, right? You're yourself and you're able to kind of present that. And I think that confidence is very powerful.
Yeah, agreed.
Have you seen, apart from that, right, how has something like this, the inner work, benefited, someone in such a stage, right?
So I had this one, I can share a few examples, right? I had this one client who came in and she is a pretty high flyer in her organization. She runs a team and so that she's doing pretty well, basically. So she's well known in the industry. And she wants to create content and she sees other people creating content, but every time she sits herself down to create the content, she feels very frustrated and nothing comes out. She gets that creative block and she spends hours trying to write something and is just not happy with how it comes out. And she worked with me to start creating content that is aligned with her and also attracts her clients and quality recruits. So we worked together for 6 months and she managed to create a brand that she's really proud of. And right now, she's not just enjoying content creation, she is creating content that a lot of people in the industry are afraid to write about. So they're no longer like vanilla kind of content. It's very spicy. it is truthful, it is very hot takes. And the surprising thing is she realized that this process made her a better leader. She was so frustrated in the beginning because she would force herself to try to write content and nothing came out, and she was treating herself like a machine. But when I guided her through the process of humanizing herself again, reconnecting with her inner voice and treating herself like an actual human being, the content that came out was way beyond our imagination. You can't even put a structure to it. It just came out organically. It's the kind of when you go on a walk, that kind, right? And because she started treating herself like a human being, it overflowed into her management style. She actually started having a lot more conversations with a team that don't create instant ROI, like coaching conversations, understanding their family, understanding them as a person. And she became a much more human leader. Like, that is just a work example. I have this other client who came to me, also similar fear of showing up online. She's from a Mandarin speaking background, so she felt like her English wasn't good enough and she would be very embarrassed in the way that she speaks. And a little bit of background is also she is a divorcee, and she has been through like many rounds of like toxic relationships, and she's trying to get out of that. But I'm not I don't brand myself as a relationship coach. The main goal that she came in to work with me was she just wants to show up with more confidence and authority to attract clients for her coaching business. And after working together with her for a couple of months, not only is she able to speak up with more confidence on camera, she's able to attract clients that really love working with her and resonate with her. She also manifested her dream life, and she's now married. She manifested her dream life, her dream relationship, someone that actually loves her for who she is, someone that I personally approve of. And she manifested her dream life. Like literally, she had this vision board that we created together, and less than a year later, we sat down and were like, 90% of your life has been created, and the other 10% is on the way. When you allow yourself to respect and surrender to the process of owning your voice, you will not just achieve the goals that you set out to achieve, you would create a whole new reality that is beyond your wildest dreams.
I love to have that. And what I'm gathering a lot is truth, right? Truth in yourself, and how does that truth shows up? Right, to yourself and then to others as well. So I realize I fumble a lot when I have a lot of thoughts in my head and I have to remember what to say.
Yeah, and when you're in that state of like you need to perform, you need to show up for your lives, you need to be perfect. How do you feel your body is feeling right now? What are some words to describe your emotions?
Oh, you feel like tense, like you're trying to remember but not remember, right? So sometimes you just blank out.
How would you want to feel instead?
Smooth, confident, right? The things that you're gonna say comes from within yourself. It's saying something to connect.
So this smoothness, this connection, this truth, is there one activity or moment where whenever you do that thing, you're able to be in this state? It doesn't have to be professional. It could be interacting with your family, your kids, or anything. Is there any moments where you actually feel the state?
Yeah, I think so. Do I have to say it?
No, you don't. But like for those moments, why do you think you feel that way? Is it because of the person itself? Like, why do you feel that way in that situation?
I think it's just comfortable, right?
It's comfort,
and it's something that you know since childhood as well, almost, right? So it's comfort,
right? So it's kind of allowing yourself to be you.
Yes.
That is what. Okay.
Yes, you're right.
So I want you to, let's do this activity with me, okay? I promise you it'll be really short. I want you to close your eyes, okay? And do you know when your next podcast recording would be? Like roughly? It's in a couple of weeks. You don't know? But okay, let's just say it's in a couple of weeks, right? Do you know who the guest would be? Okay, you know who the guest would be, okay? So would it be in this studio?
Yes.
Okay, great. So you're already familiar with the environment, right? So I want you to imagine that you are just sitting outside the studio in the comfortable chairs, right? And you have 5 minutes to yourself. How would you speak to yourself so that you can allow yourself to be you?
I would kind of let go of the questions a little, kind of just understand why we're having that conversation today.
How would you speak to yourself so that you can feel comfortable and authentically you?
Derek, this is a show that allows you to kind of like grow, and you're having conversation here with another expert. some say it's free therapy, but it's really great for me to, just learn and grow. I think that's, something I really want to do.
Finish this sentence. And Derek, success in this podcast would look like all you have to do is.
Derek, success in this podcast is that others who are watching this gets that value from the conversation that I'm having with the guests.
Okay, take a deep breath. In this moment, in the 5 minutes, you're being yourself. This podcast is your baby. The whole point of this is so that you can be curious, not be perfect. Right? So allow yourself to just be you and know that you're going to just imagine yourself walking into the podcast studio. You know how it looks like, you know how the table looks like, and you're looking at this guest and you're seeing their face and you know them as a person already. You probably met them. Just know that you're going to have the best conversation, the most connected conversation, and it's going to be from a place of truth and authenticity, and that's all that matters. And even if it doesn't go according to plan, that's what curiosity is, unplanned. How do you feel right now in this moment?
Love it.
How do you feel? How would you describe it?
Free, like it's gonna be fun. You're charged up, I think, and trying to learn.
Yeah. Okay. So remember this moment, take a little mental snapshot of this emotion, and know that you have created it within 5 minutes. And you can create it again and again and again. So do this every time you have a podcast or a stage interview, anything.
Yeah.
You can create this emotion of freedom, of connectedness within 5 minutes.
I love it.
As simple as that.
Love it. Thank you for watching this episode of Be Curious with me and Rae. We'll be compiling some of the lessons here, in a download guide that you can, click and download. Please like and subscribe this channel. I would like to hear about what are some of the fears that's holding you back in speaking up as well. Drop them in your comments. Thank you.